PSG 2, Tottenham 2, PSG win on penalties. Ladies and gentlemen, what a game. What a game of football. The Super Cup final. Really the first one that I've watched in ages. But yeah, the Parisians get it done. The champions of Europe get it done. I was hearing from Tottenham fans that they're the champions of Europe, and then when I say you're not, they say, oh, the Super Cup will decide it. Well, the Super Cup has decided it, hasn't it? And yeah, that was really unexpected for me. Really, really unexpected. I was not expecting anything like that. I thought PSG... I didn't think they were going to batter Spurs like everyone was saying, but I thought that they were going to comfortably win this game. I thought they were going to outplay Spurs. I thought they were going to be the much better team. And that is exactly the opposite of what happened. I mean, this was a truly amazing performance from Spurs. And I think despite the fact that Tottenham bottled a 2-0 lead in 10 minutes and lost the game, I think that they have a lot more positives to take from this than PSG. I think PSG have probably more negatives. It was a weird game. First half, it was all Spurs. Like, it was actually insane how... Let me just close some of these tabs. How dominated this game was by Spurs. Like, if you look... I don't know, if I go to stats, I should be able to check the first half stats. Yes, PSG had 4 shots, none of them on target. Spurs had 9, 3 on target. Only 30% of the ball. It was a truly incredible performance in that first half. PSG, they were obviously given a lot of time on the ball, but I think the way Spurs set up defensively really hurt PSG. If you look at the way the teams lined up, obviously Thomas Frank went with a back 5, included Danso, Romero, Van de Ven, with Porro and Spence as the 2 fullbacks. Overran the midfield with legs. You got Palhinha, Sarr, who's going to keep that locked down. Bentancur played alright as well. And then they had Kudus and Richarlison sort of, as 2 forward players. And that worked very well for them because I think Thomas Frank predicted that that Enrique would go with a front 3 similar to what they have used throughout most of the season, which is having obviously 2 wingers and then having Dembele play the false 9, and it worked very well for them. It really did. They weren't able to get past that Spurs back line for the majority of that game, especially the first half. I thought that PSG, obviously Spurs were great off the ball. That's how they weren't able to really let PSG create any chances. But also, I think just the way that they were pressing, they weren't really allowing PSG to properly progress the ball at times. I think whilst PSG did have a lot of the ball, they weren't really able to do anything with it. And there was a period where they were really locked sort of in their own half. I remember there were points in that game when Spurs had a very high intensity press. Richarlison, I thought, had a really good game. Kudus as well. Sarr, the way he was able to move up, very intensely apply pressure to that PSG side, but then they had the necessary resources at the back just in case that press was bypassed, and it worked very well for them. When PSG were able to progress the ball, again, didn't do anything with it. They got to the final third, weren't really able to create any clear-cut chances. I'm thinking about before the last 15 minutes, I can't really remember any clear-cut chances PSG had, and that's why we see the 0 shots on target in the first half. That's why we don't see any first half shots on target. Spurs with a much better side. Obviously, Van de Ven does score that goal just before the 40th minute. And honestly, from what I had seen, I thought the game was pretty much done at that point in time. I didn't really see a way back for Spurs, or for PSG, because all Spurs needed to do was keep playing the way they were. And then obviously, second half, whilst I thought the first half was amazing, I think the first 15 minutes of the second half was the best Spurs played the whole game. Even though as a whole sort of half of football, I thought they were better in the first half. but then the first 15 minutes after half time, they were scintillating. Like, they were incredible. You could tell that they got a lot of confidence. You know, obviously Spurs are coming up against this PSG side that had just won the treble, that had battered a lot of teams around, and they thought to themselves that they, you know, were in for a tough game, and they played a more defensive style of football. But after half time, they grew a lot of confidence. They were starting to play their football. They created more chances, and oh my god, that second goal, bro. Chevalier, is it? I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Absolute shocker for that second goal. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. It wasn't the greatest header from Romero. It was from, you know, Pedro Porro whips a ball in from the corner, headed onto the ground. Like, yeah, he's here. Oh, it doesn't show the shots. You can't check the shots. That's annoying. Yeah, literally heads it onto the ground, and then the goalkeeper just sticks it into the goal. And that was when I really thought, yeah, this game's done. And I think it was after the second goal, we saw a lot of what we saw in the first half, where PSG just had the ball. It wasn't as much Spurs pressing high as it was in the first half, but it was, again, just locking them out, not really letting PSG do anything. I thought that if we were more so, I've talked about Spurs a lot. I thought that probably their three best players were Sarr, Spence, and Romero. I thought that those three all put in massive performances. Palhinha played very well as well. Porro was good. Just an overall solid performance. There aren't many players on that pitch that I look at and think were genuinely bad. Even Richarlison I thought played alright, and I don't rate him at all. Any of the subs? Oh, Tell. Yeah, I'll talk about Tell and Solanke when we get to the second half. But yeah, in terms of PSG, I didn't think they really had many good performers at all, especially in that first half. I thought the whole back four wasn't great. Hakimi was the third best right back on the pitch. He was the third best right back on the pitch. That is insane. Neither of the centre backs were particularly good. Mendes, they just put extra numbers on his side. He wasn't really able to impact the game much. Doué dropped an absolute stinker. Zaire Emery dropped a stinker. Kvaratskhelia, I don't know. And this is where I think Enrique got a lot of it wrong, because I think, whilst I do think Frank did a very good job to beat him, going for the back five, playing the way he did, I think Enrique also got a lot wrong as well. I would have probably predicted that Frank would have gone for the back five and then put Ramos up front. And if not that, then I don't know why they would play Guevara on the right wing. Barcola, I actually did think put in a decent performance, but I would have played Fabian and put Doué on the right wing, or just played the normal front three and not play Barcola. I don't know why Fabian wasn't playing, because Doué was really bad and Kvara was really bad, and those were the main changes that he made. Obviously, Zaire Emery came in for Neves because Neves was suspended. And yeah, that front three was terrible. But the problem with PSG a lot of the time is if they're not playing their best quality football, if all their players aren't playing amazingly, they don't really have much of a plan B. Like, that front three, it doesn't give you any options to go long. And with that back five, I just think Dembele was he was struggling. He was digging for scraps. I thought he was actually quite poor before the last 15 minutes. And we will get to that. Every time he got the ball, he would lose it. Wasn't really able to impact the game much. I thought that midfield, it says Vitinha was the best player on the pitch. I don't know why. He didn't really move me at all. I don't think his performance was very good. Same with Dembele. If I was to pick one player early in the game that I thought was positive, probably I'd say Barcola. I think Barcola put in a really good performance. I think I've covered everything I want to for the early parts of that game. Now let's get to the second half, because both teams made changes that affected the game a lot. Fabian, I thought, was very good. Fabian, and then obviously Kang In Lee and Ramos both getting on the score sheet. So with an hour left, Enrique brought Fabian on for Kvara, because Kvara was terrible. I think that's when he moved Doué to right wing, put Fabian there, which is probably, as I said, what I would have gone with to start, or maybe play Kvara over Barcola. And Fabian had a massive impact on the game. I think Doué got better sort of last 7 minutes, but which then begs the question, why take him off? He took off Zaire Emery, and oh no, he kept Doué on for a bit longer. He took Barcola. That's another sub I don't get. Why did he take Barcola off when he did? I would have probably kept Barcola on and taken either Doué off or not made a change. I know that sounds weird, that I'm criticizing bringing on a substitute who scored, but I don't think bringing Barcola off was the right thing. But it worked out anyway, and then he brought Ramos on for Doué, which I think he got his subs very right. The fact that he brought on Fabian when he did, the fact that he brought on Kang and Ramos when he did. As I said, PSG was struggling. They needed an option to go long to, and bringing Ramos on helped create that. He had a Dembele drifting out to the right, which is usually his preferred position. And that changed a lot. It gave them an option to go long to. It gave them a body in the box. That's the thing with PSG. If you've really locked up their forward line, they've got no box presence. They can't really create anything. And then I think Frank's subs, none of them really did anything. Like Archie Gray didn't have a whole lot of impact. Solanke and Tell were really bad when they came on. I thought they were both just running around, and then the penalty shootout happened too. You know, should he have maybe opted to bring on a Brennan Johnson? Or I don't really want to criticize Frank's subs too much, because when you're 2-0 up, there's not really much you can do. There's not many massive statements you need to make. So I'm not really going to criticize that. And then the last 15 minutes happened. And out of nowhere, well, actually no, it's not really out of nowhere, because Doué, I think it was, did score that offside goal right before he got subbed off. Fabian was miles off from a deflection or from a rebound, and then he gives it to Doué, who scores. And then a few minutes later, Vitinha gives the ball to Kang In Lee. Getting an assist for that is a joke. It was just a 5-yard pass. And then Lee scores an absolute screamer, like a belter of a goal. Really, really good goal from him. And then PSG really start to create some chances. They're actually looking like they're going to score. I still thought Spurs were going to do it. And then Dembele, cross to the back post where Ramos heads it in 2-2, and I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe it. I don't know how PSG managed to do that. And whilst I have criticised PSG's performance, I think their performance was quite poor. It just shows the mentality. Like the fact that you're able to play as bad as you did, get locked up to the level you did, still come out with the 2 goals, and still come out with the trophy. I mean, you got to respect it. You really have to respect it. Then the penalty shootout. I thought it was a pretty low quality shootout. Solanke, who I didn't think really did anything, he was pretty useless when he came on, did score his penalty. Vitinha, bro, what is that pen? That is one of the worst penalties I've ever seen. The studded run-up, and he completely misses the target. Then Bentancur scores, so they're 2-0 up. Spurs bottle the penalty shootout as well. Ramos puts his away. I think he went down the middle. And then Van de Ven's got saved. I'm not going to praise Chevalier for saving that. He was really bad. Dembele converts his, and then Tell's penalty, bro. I don't know what he's doing. He said it's a good it's actually decent technique, because he stutters his run up properly, sends the keeper, and then just misses. Like, if you're gonna send the keeper, if he scores that's a really good pen, but then he just misses it. He literally just misses it. He had no pressure to put that away, and he completely misses it. And then the last 3 penalties are scored, and PSG do end up winning the Super Cup. So yeah, I thought that it was a weird game, mostly because the better team, I feel, lost. And I think Tottenham fans, they're going to be gutted, because 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go, they didn't get the win. But then at the same time, they're also just going to, this game doesn't really mean anything. Like, everyone knows that, you know, if you win it, you're the best team in Europe, but if you lose it, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just an extra pre-season game. That's the mentality. So Spurs fans won't really care in that regard, because they did still win the Europa League. Like, losing to the best team in the world doesn't really take away from that. But then there will be a lot of positives too. Like Thomas Frank, the way he's able to come in, and I knew that Spurs' defence is a lot better than Ange made them look. Like I knew they were going to be a lot more defensively solid under Frank than under Ange because of the personnel that they've got. But the fact that he's able to have this level of impact this quickly in terms of a defensive side of things, I mean, you just have to give him a lot of praise because I think he got everything right pretty much in this game. I can't really look at him and think he got much wrong. I think other than the subs Enrique made, he got thoroughly outcoached. I would say Enrique got thoroughly outcoached by Thomas Frank. It was really just the subs that came on and made an impact, and these aren't even particularly good players for them. So yeah, if you're a Spurs fan, there's a lot of positives to take away from this. I'm pretty high on this Frank Spurs team, especially if they do end up getting Eze and Savinho. Like, I think the one thing that they really lacked was options at attack. I mean, both their goals, one of them came from, you know, a rebound off the post. The other one came from a set piece. So they weren't really able to create a whole lot of clear-cut chances. But then if you bring Eze and Savinho into that team, it gives you so many options. You know, you've got obviously those two, but you've still got Brennan Johnson. You've still got Mohamed Kudus. Kulusevski is going to come back. Obviously, no Maddison is a big hit, and then you got Matthias Tell, who even though he had a terrible game, I think he's a really good player. And then PSG, I mean, there's worrying signs. Like there's clearly a way to beat them, and I know that they won, but there's clearly a way that you can beat them. Just really let them. Really just close up shop. Don't really let them get any clear-cut chance. I think a back five is really the way to go. I mean, Chelsea did something kind of similar. I think what we saw from Spurs in that first half was very similar to what Chelsea did, where they just used their sheer bodies in the midfield, like Sarr and Polina just bossed that midfield early. And then they had the back five, which completely neutralised their attack. It didn't give them any options. And look, it does help that PSG, that they didn't have a very good performance. I think if we saw like Dembele play at his best, I think if we saw Kvara play at his best, it could have been a different outcome. But still, I'm not going to take away from Frank. And yeah, there would be some concerns for PSG. I think Enrique needs to develop a plan B. He needs to develop something they can go to. And it did work. It did work when he brought Ramos on. But I think, you know, if he's going to go up against these kind of back fives, he needs to maybe have a system where he can maybe start Ramos or, yeah, just improve the lineup, because I didn't think he picked the lineup very well. But yeah, that is it. That is the Super Cup final. Congratulations to PSG and Tottenham. You know, maybe the bottle gene is back, but no, I'm not gonna hate. I'm gonna save my trolling for TikTok because it was a really, really good performance from Spurs, and I think if you're a Tottenham fan, you might be disappointed, you might not be, but I do think that there are clearly a lot of promising signs with this team, and you know, just get your whole squad rested and ready for Saturday when they take on Burnley. They're very lucky that they got Burnley. First game of the season. That's literally like Burnley at home is probably the easiest fixture you can get. And coming off, you know, a game on Thursday played at the intensity it was, I think that's a very nice fixture for them. But yeah, that is it. That is my analysis of the Super Cup final. So very, very, very happy surprise. Like, not even just the fact that Spurs lost in the manner they did, but just the fact that it was a good game of football. Like, I wasn't expecting this to be as good a game as it was, but yeah, guys, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you have not already. I'm going to be pumping out heaps of content on this account. My match week 1 predictions for the Premier League is on its way. That will drop before the Liverpool game, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.